Welcome to Scoop World Order. It's Monday afternoon. We have Bill the Bank Greene. It is the final week of camp. More official visitors, official visit recap, about 1,000 stars, a bunch of 5 stars were in town this past weekend. Big weekend for Ohio State. A lot of good momentum, a lot of big time commits coming, a lot of really good stuff going. So again, I don't know if you guys are part of BuckeyeScoop.com, you guys are crazy because Bill the Bank Greene has been absolutely killing it on the recruiting show, absolutely on the warpath, and the SFE kids are coming into town. So we're going to have a lot of big time scoop on some of the biggest names in the entire country. They're fresh off of OT7, Elite 11 updates. We have all kinds of great content coming to you from a recruiting perspective and an inside information perspective. So if you guys are part of BuckeyeScoop.com, now is the time to jump in as we are gearing into the season and the preseason. And if you enjoy this content, as always, we thank you guys so much. Click subscribe, click like. Also, click that little alert bell. That little alert bell will let you know when we go live. So we appreciate you guys, as always, doing that. And also, shout out where you guys are from. We have a Timbuktu watching, which I've never seen before. Didn't even know it was a real place. Thought it was a Bugs Bunny thing. So shout out Timbuktu. We also Lancaster, Ohio, Naples, Canton, Ohio. People everywhere, California, Texas. So keep putting that in the comments. Appreciate you guys so much. Without further ado, I'm going to bring in the hardest working man in all of recruiting, Bill the Bank Greene. Bank dropped a nice bomb today on Bryce West. That's the talk of the internet, the buzz of the internet right now. Talk a little bit about where we're at as an Ohio State-Michigan battle. A lot of people, including myself, the Glenville Ohio State thing has been strong for a long time. But they're taking another trip up there, and give me a little bit of the inside scoop on what is going on with Bryce West.
Well, he had a Michigan official visit 2 weeks ago, went really well. They are telling him early playing time is definitely on the menu for him. They're going to lose a couple corners after this year. So when he goes in as a true freshman, chance to play right away. They've had great defenses for a while now, something Ohio State hasn't had for a while now, and that's playing a part. He took his official there, really liked it. He's got an official to Ohio State this weekend, and then yesterday I got a tip that there might be another trip back to Michigan this week for Bryce. So I tracked Bryce down. He was gracious enough to go on the record, and he explained to me that he and his parents are talking about another trip to Michigan, probably a 2-day deal, maybe a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday deal before the Ohio State visit. And it wasn't confirmed that it's happening, but it was confirmed that he and his parents were talking about it. Great kid, great family, mom and dad, awesome people. And they said they are advising him, but he will make the choice. So when you see a visit popping up like that, he was just there 2 weeks ago and he's got Ohio State this week. Why would he go back to, well, it was an eye opener, and like, again, I was given a tip that it might happen and got a hold of Bryce. And again, he was very gracious to go on the record and say that they're definitely considering it. So we'll see what happens, man. It's recruiting. Buckle up. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's a good thing for Ohio State, but, I'm going to have to see a Glenville kid that Ohio State wants go to Michigan. I'm going to have to see it with my own eyes to believe it. Teddy Ginn is, Teddy is very well respected with those kids. Not that he pushes them or guides them or whatever, but I've never seen a Glenville kid that OSU wants badly go to Michigan. And they want Bryce West badly, and they need Bryce West badly. So just another part of the equation, this visit, and the key thing now is, does it actually take place? Does he actually run back up to Michigan with his parents, who were with him on his Michigan official visit, will be with him on his Ohio State official visit. So we'll see. I guess that's the bottom line here is we'll see. Does that trip back to Michigan take place?
Yeah, and I think that it's the Glenville pipeline is something that was really obviously under Jim Tressel. It was really strong, and it was really aided by the fact that Lloyd Carr screwed over Pierre Woods. That was kind of the genesis, and that's what blew because a lot of those a lot of those kids like Ted Ginn dreamed of going to Michigan. Like he wanted to be the deuce, he called it, like Charles Woodson. I mean, Michigan was that was the hot school back in the day. And then, Pierre goes up there. He has a really good redshirt sophomore year. That 03 game, he whooped us and they beat us up there. And, and then that next year in 04, Lloyd didn't play him. Like Pierre wanted to go pro after that year because he probably had been a mid-round pick and had a nice career. And then Lloyd didn't play him in 04. And I remember I played against him and he stunk. And so Ted Ginn never forgot that. And so then Jim Tressel would do things. He'd do favors for Ted Ginn. He'd take, okay, you give me Dante Whitner and Darius Hiley and Ted Ginn. I'll take Curtis Terry and I'll take Bryant Browning. You give me those guys. So Truss was always, he was real good to take a guy that, might not have been an Ohio State kid, but, he trusted Ted Ginn Sr. that he would guide all the superstars, down there. And it eroded a little bit under Urban. We got Marshawn Lattimore and Glenville, frankly, eroded. They didn't have the level of talent. And, Frank Clark was a guy that, frankly, we missed on, a guy that has made $100 million in the NFL. But, when he came out, like, I don't think that when you evaluated him, you thought, oh my God, he's Nick Bosa or he's
I did have him high, and I wrote about him that I thought people were missing on him because some people looked at him as a tight end, and I just thought he was an odd-sized D lineman, but he was going to be a wrecking ball. And we can tell the story now. I mean, everything's all over and done with. But Greg Madison actually called me and asked me, tell me the truth about Frank Clark. And not that I, forced that or influenced them into offering Frank Clark, but I told him this kid's he's going to be a great college player. I don't know where. I can't tell you position. He's going to be down. Is he a 4-3 tackle? Is he a 3-4 D? I don't know what he is, but he's going to wreak havoc on people. And, he had that athletic ability of a tight end and a linebacker, but you could see he was going to get big. And a couple of years later, Greg Madison calls me again about Willie Henry. I don't know if you remember Willie or not.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Ravens draft pick. Yep.
And he's like, well, Ohio State doesn't want him. And I'm like, I can't help it. They're stupid. I mean, they should want him. He's good. So I was 2 for 2 with Greg Madison. And then I told him about a kicker from Massillon, and that one didn't work out so good. So every time I see Greg, he's like, he always reminds me about the kicker, not Frank Clark or Willie Henry. I'm like, man, I don't know kickers. And he's like, yeah, obviously. So that's the Greg Madison story. But again, those kids did go to Michigan. Ted Ginn's blessing, but they were not wanted by Ohio State. If Ohio State wanted Frank Clark and Ohio State wanted Willie Henry, they would have got those kids. And that's why it's hard for me to sit here right now and think Ohio State wants Bryce West badly, and, he's going to go to Michigan. It's really hard for me to believe that.
Yeah. It would buck a major trend. Like, again, any guy that's been a top drawer, Marshawn Lattimore type, he's been a Buckeye. Ted Senior's, he's seen a lot of these kids go to Ohio State, become, because Marshawn is a gazillionaire. He's $100 million cornerback. So the formula is there. And, if you're a skill guy or a DB, we've put more DBs, corners in the pros than anybody over the last 15 years or so. So I believe it. Let's recap some of the names that were in town on the 16th. Kirby Lambert is a tackle, Massachusetts kid. We don't get many kids out of Massachusetts. Obviously, everybody loves offensive tackles. We need tall guys. Got Ian Moore. We need maybe, if we get 2 more, then it's a grand slam home run for Justin Fry.
For sure.
What do you think of Kirby Lambert? It's interesting because he's not the traditional Bama, Georgia, Clemson. He's Boston College, Notre Dame, which that can be good and bad. But, I don't know why. I get it's from Massachusetts. But if you want to be a great football player, BC has been terrible the last few years. I don't know why you'd official visit there unless you just really, really don't want to leave home. But that kind of raised an eyebrow. But what are your thoughts on him? Do we have a shot there?
He's such a quiet kid. He gives nothing away. Like, I'm really tight with that Boston College staff. They have no clue, and they're closest to the kid than anyone. They're right there. Their practices, they don't know. So He doesn't say much, doesn't give much away. Ohio State needs him. I'll tell you that. They had Brandon Baker the week before, Kirby Lambert this week. You can't just end this cycle with Ian Moore, who I really like, and then the Armstrong twins and Mark Nave. You can't have that as your offensive line class. You just can't. Mm-hmm. So it's an average class to me right now as the O-line class sits. You throw Brandon Baker in there, it goes from average to really freaking good. Really freaking good. You get Lambert or Baker, it goes to really freaking good. You get both them kids, and then it's an awesome class to me. You
Yeah.
know, that's where it is. I mean, it's average. You get one of those two, really good. Get those two, excellent. I mean, eye popping. So that's how I see O line. Can they get Brandon Baker? I think they can, but I'm not hearing he's done deal or anything like that. But I think they're in that one for sure. And Gerby Lambert, I mean, why would he not be in that? You know what I mean? There's playing time going to be available. It's Ohio
Yeah.
State. You know, now Notre Dame does a great job with O line, so no argument with me there. Um, if he goes to BC, it's because he wants to stay close to home. So we'll see. But Ohio State absolutely needs one of these two. They can't just go in with this 4-man class they have now, and they can't just go out and take another project or two. They got enough of them. So they need some dogs. Brandon Baker's a dog. Gerby Lambert's a dog, man. Those guys were really good. To me, Brandon Baker's the best O-lineman in America. So he would be number one on my list, and Gerby Lambert not far behind. And both of them I would have ahead of Ian Moore, and I would have them pretty far ahead of the other guys. So that's where they
Yeah.
are O-line. They need to keep going with O-line. You know, they're not done with these four. You gotta add. And you gotta add dudes, not projects.
I agree. So we talk offensive tackles. We got to counterbalance that and talk defensive ends. Dylan Stewart and Edric Houston were in town. And it broke that the kid from Florida that moved back up here is not going to take an official visit this weekend. Yeah,
Yeah.
Elias Rudolph. So that is kind of raises an eyebrow because maybe it feels like we've got, I think, you said Edric Houston looks like he's in. Dylan
Wow.
Stewart, maybe. But you get those two guys, and holy cow!
But
Especially
the Lightfoot kid, I think, is in. So, but they want three DNs in his class. So you get Lightfoot, who I think is okay, nice. But then you start talking Edric Houston, and I like Dylan Stewart a lot, probably more than everybody else does. I think Dylan Stewart's got a chance to be, a 10, 15 sack guy. And if you do your math and look at sack totals, Ohio State used to be around 50, and now they're in the 30s. And that makes your DBs look worse than what they are, even though they probably weren't very good the last year or so. Makes them look worse. You can't sack the quarterback in today's game with the way the rules are. You're gonna give up a ton of points.
Yep.
So they need to get back to knocking the quarterback down. They need 50 sacks a year instead of 35 or 36. And I think Stewart is the guy, man. I think he is a sack master dude that, they just don't have that on the roster right now. I mean, JT Tuimola, a hell of a player, really nice. And Jack just hasn't kind of found himself yet. I thought Jack would be a 15 sack dude. And I'm not giving up on Jack Sawyer by any means. So, but Stewart to me is, remember we saw Stewart last year too. They didn't get him. Shamar Stewart, he was a sack dude. That's why I see this guy as just a force coming off the edge for Ohio State. So I think they can get him. I think they're probably the favorite for Stewart. And then the Houston news just came out of nowhere for me that people calling him to Ohio State, man. That didn't come from me. Like, I got nothing on that. I'm just watching everybody else blowing it out there. And, to get a kid from Buford, Georgia, not go to the Dogs and come to Ohio State, I mean, that is crazy. Like if anybody should be a lock for Georgia, they've been recruiting that kid probably since he was in the 8th grade. He's probably been on campus 500 times. They've been to his school 10,000 times. How do they not have that one locked up since the kid was a sophomore? So this is unbelievable to get a kid out of Buford, Georgia, to come to Ohio State over Georgia. Man, that's huge. That would be huge. If you throw Stewart, Lightfoot, and Houston in the same class, that is just an off the chain, D-line class. Then you throw in the Jackson kid out of IMG as a tackle, maybe Justin Scott. Not giving up on that one yet for Ohio State. And then you end up with, a class that looks like the A&M class that they put together a couple of years ago. So, don't give up on Larry Johnson yet would be probably my theme on this. I think people have put Larry in the retirement home a little too soon. Let the guy do his work.
Oh,
We'll judge this when everybody's signed. Not now. Too soon now to be, uh, throwing Larry out the door. I believe in Larry Johnson, and I think last year was kind of an aberration with a lot of NIL stuff that Ohio State wasn't real good at last year, but they're better at this year. So let Larry Johnson do his work. And if he pulls Houston and Stewart, then, bow down to Larry Johnson because he's back.
oh, yeah. He gets Houston. He gets those two guys. He's gonna build a statue of him out in front of the Woody. Because like I said, I love watching Houston. There's nothing in the world I love more than good defensive ends. Like, I mean, it's like it makes everything easier. Like, you look at the Philadelphia Eagles this past season. The only game where they could get a sack was the Super Bowl, where they gave up a zillion points. So they had like 76 sacks or whatever it was going into the Super Bowl. And then all of a sudden, that whole defense looks mortal because they don't give it any sacks. So, when you don't get any sacks from your pressure guys, then nobody can do their job if you can't. It's like if an NBA team, if the spot shooters can't hit their shots, can't hit their threes, like all of a sudden everything just crumbles, So, all right, couple corners. Xavier Brown, SFE kid, so your boy Brett Getz loves him. Talks about him all the time. Kobe Black, and we had some monsters in the back end. KJ Bolden. Go ahead. What are your thoughts on those three?
Yeah, I don't think they're getting Kobe Black, but yet, I've seen too much magic come out of these Ohio State official visits with out-of-state kids that came in with average or lower expectations. Kids that have
Mm-hmm.
never been to Columbus before, they think that they're coming to Kansas, and they get here, and it's like, oh, this downtown is out of this world, and oh, this campus life is out of this world. I'm coming here. This is my place. So I've seen it, and then the way they choreograph these official visits with Mark Pantoni is the lead guy. They're the best in the country at what he does. He's done it for years. He did it at Florida. He's continued it here. Like, they really have it down to a science how to conduct an official visit. They tailor each visit to each kid, to what trips his triggers, and they're just great at it. So, do I think they're getting Kobe Black? No, I don't. Would it shock me if they get him? Nope, not at all. Xavier Brown is kind of closed ranks here, and it's tough to get information on Xavier right now. So I'm hoping to have more on him in the next couple of days. KJ Bolden, I've always felt Ohio State's going to get one of KJ Bolden or Peyton Woodyard. Georgia's got all these safeties committed, and if KJ would commit there, that would give them 4 big-time safeties in the same class. There's no way 4 big-time safeties want to be a part of that type of class. So, you signed 4 safeties, 2 of them are in the portal within a year and a half.
Yep.
So that has always made me think they're going to get one of those 2 guys. I did speak with KJ Bolden last winter. I was at a 7-on-7 in Florida. We spoke, and it was totally off the record. And he made that clear that, he didn't want any quotes and didn't want me to even paraphrase what we talked about, because he kind of found out midway through we were talking that I was a reporter. And so he kind of scratched that, and I've honored that. And I will not go against what he said, but I've always maintained that I think Ohio State can get him. And now I haven't talked to him since last January, and a lot can change, but that conversation really, it stuck with me. So I've always felt that Ohio State can get KJ, and I've never come off that. I think Bolden, we'll see. Let's see what happens. But I do feel that if KJ does decide to go to Georgia, which everybody thinks he is, but me, then I think they'll get Peyton Woodyard, because I don't think Peyton wants to be part of a 4 safety class. So I think they're going to get one of those 2. I don't think they can get both. I think they're going to get one of those 2, and I will not be shocked if KJ Bolden commits to Ohio State. Not at all. There's a relationship there with Perry Eliano. They're second cousins or something. There is a relationship there. So, again, I am probably going to be the least surprised person in America if KJ Bolden commits to Ohio State.
I I love that. We need them. I mean, you know how safeties are. It's like when you don't have safeties like last year,
Yeah,
everything looks terrible. I mean, you get
yeah.
good safeties back there. You get Sonny Styles and guys that can run and cover and hit and do what we're trying to do now. Like your life's a lot better than when you have guys that don't get drafted in the NFL.
No, you're playing man to man with Ronnie Hickman and Tanner
Oof,
McAllister, cover zero with those dudes, and you're not getting the pass rush that you've had in the past. Well, just get prepared to hear the opposing band play all day long. You're gonna
yeah,
hear that Georgia fight song, 6, 7, 8, 10 times. You're gonna hear the Michigan fight song a lot too.
yeah,
So, if you're gonna play that man to man, three safety look, cover zero, you know who you need? You need KJ Bolden
yep,
because he is a safety that covers like a corner. And I'm not just saying that, I've seen it. I've seen him in
hmm
7-on-7 covering J.J. Smith and guys like that. He can
yeah,
flip his hips and cover. I mean, and he can come
yeah.
downhill and make plays against a running game too. KJ Bolden, best DB in America for me. He'd be number one on my list. He can play man to man as a safety. I feel comfortable with him one on one with somebody instead
Yeah.
of Ronnie Hickman or Tanner
Well,
McAllister. Tanner
you got
McAllister couldn't cover me, so there's no reason to go any further than that. But yeah, KJ Bolton would be, and I would take Woodyard too. I like Woodyard a lot too. So
yeah. One last safety, Jordan Johnson Rubel, Florida kid. Yes,
yeah,
no thoughts on
he's
him?
a like a slot safety, and I talked. The school. I'm pretty tight at the school down there, and I was like, man, I'm just not seeing this at all. And they're like, you're wrong. You are wrong. He's that slot safety that can cover, and you know we'll see. It's hard to get information on that kid too. He's kind of a tight lifter too. So, and would Ohio State take him right now if he wanted in today? Would they take him or would they hold him off with KJ and Peyton Woodyard? They got a commitment from McLean the week before, so a lot going on with these DBs. I mean, and they need an upgrade desperately in that room. So we mentioned Bryce West. You still got Aaron Scott on the line out there. Xavier Brown. I wish I could tell you more about Xavier Brown. Try to learn more tomorrow down at camp. But they're kind of set up to have a haul at DB, and they need a haul there.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. Big camp week for you. The SFE kids are coming to town. I don't believe JJ's coming, but I think a lot of the young SFE kids are coming. What are you most excited about seeing Brett Gatz and all the SFE crew? They're always entertaining, and they always have a bunch of really good players like Innis, and they didn't even
Yeah.
know Carnell Tate that when we saw him a couple years ago. But what are you most excited about seeing Brett and all those guys?
Well, the one guy that I think is probably going to be in this 2025 class, I think the running back Byron Lewis. I think he's going to be in this class, and Ohio State is taking three. They've had three committed right now. Put it that way for 2024, and I mean, if you take three in one class, usually the next year you're only going to take one.
Yeah.
I see 4 or 5 running backs that I would take in 2025 over the guys that got committed for 2024, with the exception of Peoples. Peoples is
Yeah.
a stud. I'm
Yeah.
taking that dude. But I would give the other two back to get the 2 Ohio kids are really good. Bo Jackson, Marquise Davis. You got the Jordan Davison kid, who I think is number 1 on Ohio State's board from California, was there last week. You got the SFE coming in, Lewis. We saw Torrey Blaylock last week. He was amazing to me.
Mhm.
So I'd take 3 of those guys and just take one this year. But, Tony Alford knows more than I know. But it's hard for me to believe that you would take 3 in one class and then follow it up. You're not going to take another 3.
Oh
You're probably not even
God.
going to take 2. Are you going to take 2? I mean, you have to, I think, with these guys. They're so good. And these guys are all on the line, too. These guys are all guys Ohio State can get. So I don't know. It's going to be fun to watch. I'd probably take 1 in 2024 and then go take 3 of them dudes in 2025 or settle for 2 of them. But, they know more than I know. But, I mean, I've seen all these 2025 guys in person now, and it's like, holy crap, these guys are good. They are really good.
So you're telling me you wouldn't honor the commitment of a kid that stuck down and took a Kentucky official visit without telling you?
Nope. I would
Oh,
I might have told him take the Kentucky visit and have a good career there. I mean, it's just when Urban ran the show,
whew.
if you were committed and he found somebody he liked better than you, then you were moving on.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, you'd see a surprise decommitment. It's like, wow, why did that kid decommit? It's like, I'll tell you why he decommitted. He got the nudge, he got the
Uh-huh.
talk, and that's just you want to win, or are we trying to make friends? What are we trying to do here?
Yeah, and
So
and and again, like it's one thing like if you're the top, if you're Percy Harvin or you're a top drawer guy, JJ Smith, JJ can go visit Akron, Kent, Eastern
wherever
Michigan. If he
yeah,
he can go to every college in the entire country, but because he can do that. But like sometimes you like these kids, they shock me because I'm like, you're kind of at the bottom of the pecking order, and you're really there's a million kids that you could be replaced by, and again, I think communication is critical with the coaching staff. I think that Ryan Day probably had a pretty interesting conversation with Tony Alford when he found out that a kid that they probably, were hesitant, committed. And then all of a sudden he goes and takes a sneak official visit to Kentucky, that's a B tier program. You're an A tier, A plus tier program like that. Again, and I know Vince Morrow, and Vince Morrow is really good at what he does, but he put that kid in a bad situation because the optics of that, especially when you don't tell Tony Alford, when I don't know, it puts you behind the eight ball, man, because you better be balling the
yeah.
second you get to campus. I'm just saying. Um, we'll wrap this real quick. Quick on the 23rd, we have Demarion Witten, Justin Scott, Kingston, Velamanu Asu, who James Laurinaitis loves. Peyton Pierce is committed. And then we have the two corners, Bryce West, Aaron Scott. Any predictions from the bank out of how that will shake down?
I think they can get the Kingston kid. I really do, and I'm glad you
Oh,
said his last name. That way, I don't have to.
yeah. Yeah.
Man, he's a freaking wrecking ball too. I mean, he's kind of more of an old school linebacker than a today linebacker. And they got Peyton Pierce, and he's kind of that. Those guys are kind of those Tommy Eichenberg types.
Mm-hmm.
And I would take them both. I'll take Peyton Pierce, and I'll take Kingston right now. I'll take both of them. But I think they really need to be on the lookout for that Ryan Shazier type.
Oh, yeah.
That's where I think they're maybe lacking. They took no linebackers last year, zero.
Oh, yeah.
You can't skip a position group. So when you
No.
do, you got to come back with a vengeance here. And Pierce and Kingston, man, they would be A-listers for me, but they're wrecking balls. They're thumpers. I
Yeah.
think I would take four linebackers in this class. I would take the two thumpers, and then I'd be finding two runners.
Yeah.
Two
A CJ Hicks kind of guy.
Yeah, yeah. And, a Shazier type.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I think they're lacking a little bit. And I think they were lacking a little bit there last year. Now CJ has got all the talent in the world. Sonny's got all the talent in the world. So they do have those kind of guys on the roster. But after taking zero last year, then I want two more, at least one. Get a speedster.
Yeah.
Get a dart. Guy comes off, beep, beep, gone. They need one
Yep.
of those guys. So that's where I'd be on the lookout for. But I'll take Kingston in a minute, and I love Peyton Pierce. So
Any
yeah,
last comments? I know you're on a time crunch on the two corners because those are the two everybody's worried about right now.
yeah, I don't know what to say about Aaron Scott. I really don't. There's a lot of conflicting info out there about him. So let's say I want to see his official visit and see how that jives with him. With Bryce West, I mean, I have to see a Michigan kid, Michigan land, an Ohio kid that OSU wants, a Glenville kid
Yep.
that OSU wants really badly. He's a great kid too, great family. I got to see that kid go to Michigan to believe it. So
Yep.
I'm sticking with Bryce West to OSU, even though I broke the story that he may be taking another Michigan visit. I mean, unless he comes back from Michigan, this visit, if it does take place, and he comes back on Thursday and cancels the Ohio State official, well, then we'll know more. We'll know all we need to know. But whether he takes this Michigan 2-day visit again or not, let him take this Ohio State official visit. He's a Ted Ginn kid. I got to see that kid go to Michigan to believe it. I like to bet and gamble a little bit here and there. I'm betting on Bryce West as a Buckeye. That's where my money's going. So, and if I lose, then I lose. I'm putting my money on Bryce West to Ohio State. I got to see a kid like that go to Michigan. And it probably will happen one time before I die, but I don't think it's going to be this one.
I love it. I think it's awesome. So great stuff, Bank. Well, I know you got to run. You got to run, go make a quick airport run. So appreciate you, brother. I'm going to wrap this thing up. Thank you, Bill the Bank Greene, bringing the goods like he always does. Fantastic by the bank. Big columns all week. He's round the clock camp coverage, official visit coverage. Bank's been killing it. Joe Drame has been killing it. He's been working. They've been pounding the pavement over at the WAC, getting the best coverage in the game. So as always, we appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you enjoyed this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, and also click the alert bell if you guys enjoy our live content. Appreciate you guys as always. And also shout out where you guys are from. Comment in our comments. Who are we going to land? Do we land both the corners? Do we land one of the corners? I know everyone's all worried about it. So just put the names into the two corners we're going to get. I think we get them both. I really do. I think there's a lot of hand-wringing going on, but Ohio State's the spot to be at, and we're ascending. Like I said, I think our DB coaches do a great job recruiting. Tim Walton has been killing it, even in the portal. So I'm super excited about all of the great things he's doing. So that being said, if you guys enjoy this content, you guys really got to check out BuckeyesGroup.com because our content has been crazy good. Our camp coverage has been A1A. Thank you to our guys on the ground. Thank you to the intel we're getting. We got the South Florida Express crew coming up. Going to get a lot of good inside buzz, a lot of juicy tidbits for you guys. So if you guys enjoy that, BuckeyesGroup.com is the community for you. We appreciate you guys. And all you guys that are already members, thank you so much. Again, it's fantastic being on there, and I'm going to be checking in on there as soon as I'm done with this. So thank you guys so much. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.